Hello.
My name's Emily Gonzalez.
I'm Salvatrice Fetty.
I'm Daisy Reese.
And I'm Ashley Ellis. And we are here to present to you a bullying project. We are a part of Texas Tech, El Paso, Gallery Hunt School of Nursing.
Okay, so I'm going to go over a basic overview of what bullying is and warning signs to bullying. So, what is bullying? Based on an article from 2015 from the Journal of School Health, bullying is a specific form of peer victimization in which victimization is intentional, occurs repeatedly, and includes a power imbalance in which a more powerful person or group attacks a less powerful one. In order for bullying to be considered, the behavior must be aggressive and include an imbalance of power and repetition. An imbalance means that kids who bully use their power, such as physical strength, access to embarrassing information, or popularity, to control or harm others. Power imbalances can change over time and in different situations, even if they involve the same people. Repetition means that bullying behaviors happen more than once or have the potential to happen more than once. So where does bullying happen? Bullying happens during or after school hours, in the school building, in the playground, bus, on the way to and from school, in the neighborhood, and on the internet. So the types of bullying are verbal. So that's when people say or write mean things. This is like teasing, name-calling, inappropriate sexual comments, taunting, or threatening to cause harm. The next is social, which is when someone hurts someone's reputations or relationships. Examples of this is leaving someone out on purpose, telling other children not to be friends with someone, spreading rumors about someone, embarrassing someone in public. And lastly, there's physical bullying, which can be hitting, kicking, punching, spitting, tripping, pushing, taking or breaking someone's things, making mean or rude hand gestures. Okay, so some warning signs displayed by someone being bullied. Knowing the warning signs can help in taking action against bullying. These include unexplainable injuries, lost or destroyed clothing, books, electronics, or jewelry. Another is frequent headaches or stomach aches, feeling sick or faking illness, changes in eating habits, difficulty sleeping or frequent nightmares, declining grades, loss of friends or avoidance of social situations, feelings of helplessness or decreased self-esteem. And lastly, self-destructive behaviors. On the other hand, warning signs that someone is bullying others include fighting, whether it's physical or verbal, associating with other individuals that are bullies, becoming increasingly aggressive, increasing academic disciplinary action, having unexpected extra money or new belongings. They blame others for their problems, they do not accept responsibility for their actions, and they worry about their reputation or popularity more than others. Lastly, why is it important to know and understand the warning signs of bullying? And this is important because they can point to other issues or problems such as depression or substance abuse.
So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the different types of bullying. So there's 6 types of bullying. There's physical bullying, verbal bullying, relational aggression, cyberbullying, sexual bullying, and prejudice bullying. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of describe each one and go into detail about them. So to begin, we have physical bullying. This is the most obvious type of bullying. This occurs when adolescents use physical actions to gain power and control their target victims. Physical bullies tend to be bigger and stronger and more aggressive than their peers. Examples of physical bullying would be hitting, punching, kicking, anything that's like a physical act that harms the target. This type of bullying is the easiest to identify, so as a result, it is most likely what people think of when they think of bullying. This type of bullying usually receives more attentions from schools than other forms. Next, we have verbal bullying. Perpetrators of verbal bullying use words and statements and name-calling to gain power and control over their target victims. Typically, verbal bullies will use relentless insults to belittle and demean and hurt another person. They choose their targets based on the way the person looks, acts, or behaves. One of the biggest targets for this type of bullying is special needs kids. Verbal bullying is often very difficult to identify because attacks are almost always occur when an adult isn't around. So it's usually one person's word versus another person's word. Additionally, many adults feel that things kids say don't impact others significantly, so adults tend to put it off and just tell the victim of bullying to ignore it. But research has shown that verbal bullying and name-calling has serious consequences and can leave deep emotional scars on the victims. So next we have relational aggression. This is kind of a sneaky type of bullying that often goes unnoticed by parents and teachers. This is sometimes referred to as emotional bullying. Relational aggression is a type of social manipulation where adolescents try to hurt their peers and sabotage their social standing. Relational bullies often try to exclude someone from a group by spreading rumors, manipulating situations, and they break self-confidence. The goal behind a relational aggression bully is to increase their own social standing by controlling or bullying another person. In general, we see this mostly in girls more than boys. As a result, girls who engage in relational aggression are often called mean girls. The person that is on the receiving end of the relational aggression is likely to be teased, insulted, ignored, and excluded from groups. So next we have cyberbullying. This is when someone uses the internet, a smartphone, or other technology to harass, threaten, embarrass, or target another person. Examples of cyberbullying include posting hurtful images, making online threats, and sending hurtful emails or texts. Because adolescents are always plugged in to social media, cyberbullying is a growing issue among young people. It is also becoming more widespread because bullies can harass with much less risk of being caught, so they can hide behind the screen. Cyberbullies often say things that they do not have the courage to say face-to-face. Technology makes them feel anonymous, isolated, and detached from the situation. Consequently, online bullying is often mean and cruel. To the targets of cyberbullying, it feels never-ending. Bullies can get to them anytime and anywhere, and often it threatens the safety of themselves and even in their own homes. As a result, the consequences of cyberbullying are very significant. So next we have sexual bullying. This consists of repeated, harmful, and humiliating actions that target a person sexually. Examples include sexual name-calling, crude comments, vulgar gestures, uninvited touching, and sexual propositioning. For instance, a bully might make a crude comment about a girl's appearance, attractiveness, sexual development, or sexual activity. In extreme cases, this can lead to sexual assault. Girls are often the targets of sexual bullying by both boys and girls. Boys might touch them inappropriately, make crude comments about their bodies, and girls, on the other hand, might call the other girl names or make insulting comments about their appearance or body. Okay, lastly, we have prejudice bullying. This is based on prejudice adolescents have toward people of different races, religions, or sexual orientation. This type of bullying can encompass all other types of bullying, including cyberbullying, verbal bullying, relational bullying, physical bullying, and sometimes even sexual bullying. When prejudice bullying occurs, kids are targeting others who are different from them and single them out. Often this type of bullying is severe and can open the door to hate crimes.
So let's take a look at the people who are bullied. We call these bully victims. So there is no specific formula to identify those that are bullied. It can happen anywhere and to anyone. Any child can be the target of bullying. It can happen to a person that's a boy or a girl. It can happen to someone who has glasses, a stutter, someone who doesn't wear the right clothes that are on trend. It can happen to the popular kid. It can happen to anyone. It can happen in the hallway, in the cafeteria, on the playground, in the locker room. It can even happen outside of school and even online. It can happen while the victim is alone. It can happen in front of bystanders, and it can even happen in front of teachers. So a bully can choose anything to target a victim. Any kind of characteristic can be the basis of a bully's attack. Just because this bully has chosen this characteristic or a multitude of characteristics about a person does not mean that there is anything wrong with this person. It does not mean that they need to change anything about themselves. The bully is in the wrong and is doing a wrong act. Any child can be a bully victim. On this slide, you can see that we have some bully victim risk factors. Now, just because a child has these risk factors does not mean that they are in fact being bullied. It just means that they have a higher likelihood of being bullied. Ray Merrill and Carl Hansen state that risk factors are behaviors that predict a future problem, while protective factors are those that prevent a future problem. Online on stopbullying.gov, it states that children who have one or more of these risk factors are more likely to be bullied than their peers. So, we can go ahead and look at each of these risk factors. The first one is appearance. Now, this is generally the first thing that we think about bullying. I'm going to pick on you because you're wearing glasses, or you just look different from me, you are not wearing the on-trend clothes, whatever it is. It could be that they are overweight, underweight, they have a physical disability that affects their appearance, anything of it, it can be the target of a bullying event. Next, we can look at as they are perceived as weak. The bully thinks that this child is not going to stand up and fight for themselves or retaliate in any way. It doesn't mean that they are physically weak, but that they are just more passive in nature. Next, we have low self-esteem. If a child has low self-esteem, they are depressed, anxious, or just do not have a lot of confidence in themselves, they are less likely to react to bullying and are easy targets for a bully to pick out. This also harms them in the long run too, because it's even lowering their self-esteem even more. Students with pubertal friends can also be bully victims. This is because they lack a good social support network. When students do not have a lot of friends, they might be by themselves, which is an easy target for bullies to go out against just one person. And they aren't very confident as well because they lack that social support. Finally, the kids that just don't fit in. This is whether they are maybe classified as annoying by the other classmates, or they are just not like the rest of the student body. This makes it even a higher incidence of these children to be bullied because the bully takes that and magnifies it. Okay, so We already looked at risk factors for bullying victims. Now we'll look at what puts a child at an even higher risk. So, StopBullying.gov lists children who are more diverse than the rest of the student body are at a higher likelihood of being bullied than their peers. Differences in race, religion, sexual orientation, and gender identification, and disability status can be used as the basis of a bullying event. When bullying is based on race or ethnicity and is severe, pervasive, or persistent, it may be considered harassment. And this act is illegal and is actually protected under federal civil rights laws. So bullying based on faith and religion is commonly done so because the bully is misinformed or has a negative perception of the victim's beliefs or faith. Many times, bullies use the outward appearance of people to base their bullying on. So, for example, bullies can target a girl wearing a hijab or a boy wearing a yarmulke. Religious harassment falls under Title IX of the Civil Rights Act. The Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance of 2017 published statistics that students who identify as lesbian, gay, or bisexual were being bullied on school property at a rate of 33%, and were being bullied online, cyberbullying, at 27.1%. There are no federal laws to protect harassment based on sexual orientation. There are only laws to protect against sexual harassment, which LGBTQ can fall under if someone is targeting their gender. Children with physical, developmental, intellectual, emotional, and sensory disabilities have a higher reported rates of being bullied. Whether the disability can be visualized or not, children with disabilities and special needs can be the target of bullying. Bullying children with a disability may fall under disability harassment, and this is illegal, and it must be addressed by the school. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 protects children from such harassment. Okay, so here we have Table 2.9 from National Center for Education Statistics Student Report of Bullying. So to start, we have the total percentage of students that reported being bullied. That's up here in the red circle. It's 20.8 of all students that participated in this survey of people being bullied. And then next, there's a breakdown of that percentage that reported and their races. So we have, first off, white race for 21.6. The next is black non-Hispanic, 24.7. And then finally, all of the races that were not included in this sectioning at 25.9. So they're obviously at the highest, and this could include anywhere from like Native American to Middle Eastern or anything like that. And then finally up here, we can see that from that 20.8% that reported being bullied, that it was further broken down to race, religion, ethnic origin, disability, gender, sexual orientation, and appearance. And we can see that appearance is the number one percentage up here with 26.9, and then it goes down to race. So again, like I talked about before, all those little subcategories of why someone could be bullied or at higher risk, those can be seen here. And then finally, we're going to be talking about the different types of victims. So in Harleen Sadu's case study of Sylvan Learning's approach to cyberbullying, there are two types of victims. There are the passive and provocative victim. So the passive victim is the most common type, and these victims are usually insecure and have low self-esteem, they're anxious, they usually are physically weak, they're not going to be fighting back, they withdraw or cry a lot after the bullying attack happens, and they really don't have any friends. So then we also have the provocative victim. This can also be the bully/victim. They are actually going to react when they're bullied, and they can even bully others. So they're going to either react aggressively or back to the bully or aggressively to other students. They have poor social skills. A lot of times these students and children have hyperactivity disorders, so they really don't have a lot of social skills also with that as well. And this also goes in with the behavioral issues. They might have a lot of issues in the classroom, with their friends, and even at home with family. And the difference between a lot of the provocative victims and the passive victims is that they at least have some friends. It might be one, but at least they have some.
So I'll be discussing the effects of bullying. I will discuss cyberbullying versus traditional bullying effects. So according to many studies, cyberbullying effects are greater than traditional bullying effects. Why is this? This is for several reasons. The first reason being that a user's online comments can be easily spread beyond the initial posting, so this is why it could be more widespread and easily spread between different people. Also, another reason is that users feel more powerful due to the use of being behind the screen and anonymous, and not being face-to-face with someone. They might be more likely to use more harmful words. Another reason is cyberbullying is more likely to happen outside of school as opposed to traditional bullying, which mostly happens inside of school. So when they're at home, they don't feel like they're escaped from the bullying that they experience at school. The last reason is that there's a higher risk associated with cyberbullying, with substance abuse and depression. One study found that cyberbullying and victimization predicted depression and substance abuse 6 months later. The next thing I'll discuss is the emotional and social impacts of bullying in general. So it has many emotional impacts, such as emotion regulation issues. This can include anger issues, borderline personality disorder, as well as the lack of ability to suppress inappropriate emotions. Depression and anxiety are very common with bullying. A low self-esteem, and this increases the risk for suicide. Suicide is the second most frequent cause of death in those aged 15 to 29 years old. The social impacts include isolation, so victims of bullying are more likely to isolate themselves from relationships, from school, from their peers, from their family, and from their friends. And this can cause relationship issues, maybe because of trust or low self-esteem, and they're not able to form stable relationships because of that. Another reason is because another impact is decreased academic achievement or involvement. So this goes along with isolation. Most victims of bullying have decreased amounts of involvement in school because they skip class or they just aren't motivated to do work anymore due to their depression and anxiety. And then also another impact is increased risky behaviors. A lot of victims of bullying are more likely to engage in substance abuse, cigarette use, and alcohol use. Bullying also has a physical impact. All of these are related to the increased amount of stress that comes with bullying. Bullying doesn't just affect a person's mental health, it also affects their physical health. This is because a stress related to bullying triggers a fight or flight response, which releases the stress hormone cortisol. and this causes an increase in blood pressure, pulse, blood glucose, while suppressing the immune and digestive function. And if it triggered daily, this can be very harmful on one's physical health. And for example, it can cause sleep deprivation, and when someone's sleep deprived, they're irritable, they can't focus, so this could also impact a student's studies and just their social life in general. Another physical impact is changes in eating patterns and weight. So stress can either increase your appetite or decrease your appetite. The reason why it increases appetite is because cortisol increases fat storage and appetite in individuals, but sometimes people actually have a reduced appetite in response to stress and actually lose weight. Another physical impact are tension headaches. This results from stress as well, and this could actually harm one's social life and their studies as well. Muscle pain. Actually, stress makes muscles contract even when they're resting. So this is actually can be painful for an individual. Another physical impact is upset stomach or digestive issues, including constipation or just bloating, since stress actually decreases the function of the GI system. And then lastly, there's an increased risk of infection and heart disease with increased stress. So increased risk of infections with increased stress because white blood cells have receptors for stress hormones on their surface, so exposure to these can alter their function. And poor coping habits that come with bullying and stress also negatively affects the immune function. And there is a possible link with heart disease with increased stress related to bullying. Persistent stress actually increases blood pressure and inflammation, and these are both risk factors for heart disease. The next thing I'm going to discuss is the prevention and management of bullying. So it's difficult to address bullying behavior, but there are ways to discourage bullying. The best way is to address and report bullying behavior directly. However, if you are uncomfortable with addressing bullying behavior face-to-face with the one who is bullying you, or it puts you in a dangerous situation, there are other ways to address bullying and report it. For example, you could seek support of friends, family, counselors, teachers, and bystanders and peers can help as well. As a bystander or peer, the best thing for you is to be encouraging to victims and help them get through this tough time. These other ways to manage bullying include activities that reflect better health, group protection, and lower vulnerability. And these activities include eating breakfast every day and making sure that you're getting the right nutrition and not ignoring your physical needs. Staying physically active and joining sports and school activities. This keeps you involved in school and just physically healthy. And another way is to stay in groups if possible, because bullies most often single out those who are alone. And playing video games 3 hours or more a day is associated with an increased risk of bullying because you're more vulnerable and prone to bullying and less likely to be involved in protective behaviors like what I've mentioned. So the best way to prevent bullying is to stop it before it happens. Ways to do this is to increase school staff and students' awareness of bullying through activities, classes, discussions, meetings, art, just various activities that allow students to be more informed on bullying and bullying behaviors. Another way is to provide resources and address the school climate to make sure that it aims to improve student learning, strengthen families, and create healthier communities to reduce bullying. Other methods is implementing an anti-bullying prevention program and counseling groups in a school community, which I'll discuss after this slide. And lastly, there is a need for school health professionals that are able to target individuals at risk or who are having signs of bullying, which include school nurses, mental health therapists, and social workers. These individuals can provide the right amount of resources and refer students as appropriate. I discussed the various ways to prevent bullying. One of those ways was an anti-bullying prevention program. This is a school-based program aimed at increasing the emotional abilities of teens in order to protect against or lessen the negative consequences of being a victim of cyberbullying. There was a study by Extramera et al. In 2008 on the buffering effect of emotional intelligence on bullying. Emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive and express emotion, to use emotional info to facilitate thought, and the ability to regulate emotion. And in this study, it was found that the higher emotional intelligence one has, the less consequences they suffer from bullying. So this is a graph from the previous study that I just mentioned from Frontiers in Psychology, a study in 2018. This is the relationship of cyber victimization and EI, emotional intelligence, for predicting self-esteem. In this chart, it shows that the relationship between cyber victimization and self-esteem weakened as emotional intelligence increased. This is another figure from the same study, and it's showing the relationship of cyber victimization and EI, emotional intelligence, for predicting self-esteem. And this shows that the association between cyber victimization and suicide risk weakened as emotional intelligence increased. Another way to prevent bullying was the development of anti-bullying counseling groups. These groups are aimed at providing youth with the opportunity to learn and understand how bullying affects youth. A study by Tiger in 2016 actually used anti-bullying counseling group in the Cunningham Children's Home, which specializes in a variety of services to kids and teens who suffered a great deal of trauma, so they had disorders such as PTSD, bipolar disorder, ADHD, and autism. So in these groups, it was scheduled once a week, 30 to 45 minutes for 8 weeks. And in these groups, they would just discuss the types of bullying behaviors, unhealthy characteristics in relationships, how to stop bullying, different coping mechanisms to help bullying and help manage bullying. And the results of this study supported the program effectiveness.